Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Hello, everyone. Good. At least it's close to evening. In Jamaica, we still say good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to have everyone here today. I know that some persons will be joining soon. We have Michael here. We have Shavoy. We have Koi. We have Tori. And their mom is Primo. It's really nice to always fellowship. I know especially for most of us that would be not within the confines of religion anymore, where we no longer meet in a four-walled building. So whenever, as believers, we get this opportunity to meet and greet, it's always a privilege. Today, we're honored to have a fellow believer in the body with us today, Peter Meyer. He has come to a realization of the truth for many years. God has really worked through him in sharing the truth to others, both on YouTube and also in other settings at conferences. And we connected recently. We've had many good discussions, and we saw it as a privilege to edify everyone here by having a virtual meetup. I told him that there are others because Peter is currently in Suriname, and before now, we would be the closest set of believers to him in Suriname from where he is. So it was very interesting when we met, and he learned that I'm here in Jamaica, and I told him that happily we have other believers in Jamaica as well. So he was very excited to meet and share. So I'll just give you guys a brief moment. I know Tori for sure. You can open your mic and introduce yourself. If anyone else wants to say hi before we get into the meat of the matter, we can. If not, then happy to have you here, Peter, and really looking forward to the discussion that we'll have today.
Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, Tori.
Hi, nice meeting you.
Likewise. Hi, hello.
Yes, her name is Andra. Okay, so I became a believer. Well, I was introduced to the message. Joel, when? 2021?
Yeah, I believe so.
2021, yes. And it's been great, to say the least. It's been great. It's been
Fantastic.
A great journey. I'm now at peace.
Great. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, and anyone else that feels the need to open your microphone and say hi, definitely do.
Yes, I am Andrea, and I became a believer. 2021, but I stopped going to church last year when the old church turned against us. But as you say, it's a peace that I can't even explain it.
Yeah, the peace of Philippians 4:7, right?
You must have this peace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the peace that surpasses all understanding can only be God's peace. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Hi, Nikoi.
Yes.
Nikoi.
Hey, good evening.
Do I pronounce it correctly? Nikoi?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm from Jamaica. I'm a good friend of Joel.
Great.
I'm still learning, so get in there.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. Anyone else? Chefoy, Michael?
Yes, good evening. Sorry for the circumstances. Camera cannot be on at the moment, but I'm here.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Yes, I'm just like Nicole said, we're just starting in this journey and learning as well. So I'm just here to learn as much as we can.
All right.
Joel and I go back years, so we are always knowledge seekers and don't confine to the traditional education or what society said. We find our own way and beliefs.
Okay, very, very nice. Thank you. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good afternoon for you.
For me, this message I think I've said it to Joel and probably Tori. The message was introduced to me like 2014 when I was in the church as a elder and leader in training, and I actually like, you know, almost like fight the guys who brought it to my attention, and then God gave the message to my wife, and then the rest is history. Like, okay. I was even in Canada when she started sharing it, and I'm like, babes, 5 years ago this message came to me, but I was an elder, and then wow. I'm not gonna lie, it was a struggle, but it's like as time, you know, proceeds, it's like God just put everything into place, like everything just, you know, just add up, everything just come clear. And I've watched some of your videos, and I want to say this to you. I'm so happy for this opportunity, man. I want to say this to you. I've watched one of your videos recently. I think it was a series on Bills, do you remember what was it? The one that you sent me?
The chronology.
Yes, that one.
Which one? Which
so
one?
Many questions.
I didn't.
The chronology.
Chronology. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I have a lot of questions, but yeah.
All right.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yes, nice to meet all of you. Shanika, Shanika, welcome. You want to say something or?
Thank you, but no, I'm just listening in.
Great. All right. Well, I'm glad to be meeting you guys. Well, Joel already mentioned it. So my name is Peter. I live in Suriname. Keep it very brief. Up till now, I live in Suriname now for 8.5 years. And I lived in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, for 32 years. But I was born and raised in Suriname. And so I'm back in Suriname for more than 8 years. But the point is, while I have talked to quite some people already, one-on-one, and even held some Bible studies, as far as I know for sure, there is not one person in Suriname of whom I know for sure that they are a believer. I cannot tell. There are some people who believe. I think there's one person that believes in the salvation of all. I think so. But that's not the whole evangel. You can imagine that. So I'm not sure whether they are a believer or not. So the closest believers are in the well, as far as I knew, were in the US. And I didn't know anyone in the Caribbean until I met Joel on Discord. So that's fantastic. I find it a huge privilege to even heard that there are believers in Jamaica. And I thought, okay, then they also should be in maybe Trinidad or other Caribbean places. So you never know, of course, where in the world God has prepared the body of Christ. But I find it a huge privilege to know that you guys are quite fairly close to Suriname, at least. So I find it like a what is the word? Kindred spirits. That's how I see it for now. It's fantastic. So as far as I've understood, we're going to talk about the end times developments. As far as I know, also what is maybe written in the Revelation, but this is of course a huge subject, so we have to maybe segment it and also see what is the most relevant for now for this meeting. So whenever you guys are, I'm not gonna talk because I don't know where your requests lie. So I'm hoping that you guys have maybe prepared some questions, so that I can have that conversation with you guys. And of course, if you have feedback, your viewpoint, I would welcome that with both hands, because I think it's very worthwhile to to know your viewpoint, so that I can learn from that and see other angles also that I maybe didn't even consider. So everything is welcome. So I would say shoot.
Yes, and just to add to that before everyone opens the mic, of course, end times discussion covers everything happening in the world now, things that we know happen or have an insight into happening to the future. Just on the back of this call, Peter, we did have a Revelation series. I know not everything was clear to everyone. So, of course, feel free. This is a forum that you can ask questions centered around that. Or if there's anything else based on your studies that you would want more clarification on. Usually, Peter, I'm the one talking in these calls, so I just want to facilitate this week to listen to everyone. And if there's anything else that I may want to add or ask a question on myself, I definitely will. But this is an open forum where anything at all, guys, we're here to edify the body of Christ. We're here to share. And just like in Paul's time, there were some who had a fuller realization of the truth, some didn't, and his ministry was really centered around helping everyone. As he said, his prayer was that each person will be filled full with a realization of God's will and also spiritual understanding. So don't feel shy, if there's anything you're not sure about, definitely ask, and Peter will try his best to really shed light and also hear what your view on the matter is, and myself if need be at any time.
Yeah. Who wants to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, great.
Before I forget it, it's the first question, hopefully of many.
Fantastic.
I know in previous studies that we had before, Joel, it was mentioned that our evangel we don't watch per se. Is that correct?
We don't watch.
We're not in. As in, look out for signs.
Okay.
It's a must that we look out for signs or in expectation of something that will happen, or we just go on autopilot, just cruise until the snatching. I don't know.
Yeah.
So on that.
Watching or drowsing.
Right.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Well, yes. As it's very important and very relevant also in the end times discussions to really see and believe that there are two predominant evangels in Scripture. And it is very important because now we live in an era, in a period that's called, the dispensation of this period is grace. And not just grace, but transcendent, overflowing grace. That is the dispensation. But the administration of this period in which we still live, but are in the very end period, is called secret. Secret, why is it called secret? Because there are things in this administration, well, I would say the whole administration was kept hidden in God before Aeonian times. So that means that no one knew. God revealed nothing whatsoever to anyone. You will not find this in the Hebrew scriptures. Paul, the Apostle Paul, was the first one to whom God has revealed it. And he is the one that shared it with us, so to speak. So, of course, we know that Paul is our apostle in terms of the body of Christ. And again, in this period in which we live, there are no signs at all as such. Well, there are at least two prophecies I know off the top of my head by Paul himself. There are two prophecies. The first one is in 1 Timothy 4:1, where he talks about in subsequent times, there will be doctrines of demons. So what are the subsequent times? He wrote this in maybe 50, 55 AD, First Timothy. So that's one of his bit earlier letters. And subsequent times could be the Council of Nicaea. That was in 325 AD. So that is definitely to be regarded as subsequent times. And what happened in the Council of Nicaea? Maybe you already know. There the doctrine of the Trinity was concocted. and that is one definitely doctrine of demons. So this is an example of the prophecy of Paul in 1 Timothy 4:1 that came into realization, that became realized. But in 2 Timothy 3, verse 1 until I would say 5 at least, there he doesn't talk about subsequent times, but he talks about the latter times, even the last times. But there he means the last times of this current era of secret, this administration of secret. So this is not the end times. This is the end times of the administration, not of this eon. I hope you see what I mean. We are in the third eon now. So the end times of this eon will start with but I don't want to be too detailed now, with the last week in Daniel, the Daniel prophecy of 70 weeks. The last week, the start of that week, I would say, no, let me correct myself. I would say the second after the snatching away, just sharing my viewpoint, the second after the snatching away will be the start of the end times, of this eon. But this administration, where we are still in, will end at the snatching away. You see the difference? So this administration ends, this era ends with the snatching away. This secret era ends with a secret event, because I believe that the snatching away will be a secret event. No one, I would say it will not be televised. Definitely not. You will not see it in the media, let alone the mainstream media. So this will be a secret event, because only the number of people already that will be snatched away will be, I would say, if it is 50,000 worldwide, I think it would be a lot. And 50,000 is already 0.006% of the world population of 8 billion. So just to give a little ratio here. So it will be very insignificant for the world. People will not know. And then after the snatching away, the end times of this eon will start. And it will take at least 7 years, a little bit more. That's what I expect. So I hope this is clear. No signs whatsoever. So all the prophecies from the Hebrew scriptures are not for us. They are not relevant. It is the Jews in the Israel evangel of Peter. Those are looking for signs, not us. That's the difference. Big difference.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I hope my answer was not too extensive.
No, it's actually good. I love it.
I hope it's clear. Okay, good. Anyone else? Or you, Tori, doesn't matter who. Or Joel. I mean, if you have a question, please shoot. Maybe one.
I'm just listening, and just to even add to that, Paul speaks to our walk as one being of faith and not one of perception.
Exactly.
He says the Jews for signs, they request; for the Greeks, they request knowledge.
Yes.
And for us, God has put it's hard to even explain it, but this intangible perception of Him that really you can only know if you know. Yeah. And our walk, as even many other expositors speak to this, we would never be popular among regular men.
No.
We will never be seen in grand crusades.
No.
We'll never be seen on TV being broadcast to millions of persons.
Exactly.
Because as Paul says to the world, our knowledge is considered stupidity.
Yeah.
It's not something considered as something nice to the ears, and this we see even in the life of Jesus himself. Even though he came to as a servant of the circumcision, the life of Jesus was not in line with the mainstream. He did not fit the mainstream portrayal, and that is why they were expecting someone royal, even though Isaiah was so clear in saying that he would not be someone desirable. They could not perceive that. They thought he would be this popular man that would come and just vanquish the Romans and lead them into the millennium. And even much so on a greater level, our walk today as believers, Paul speaks to us embracing a quiet and a mild life. That is our walk today, not one on the street, not one of popularity. And that is why faith, rather than works or sight or miracles, is the great characteristic of this evangel. It is only as God put belief in the heart of the individual that they will be able to hear. Well, through hearing, that faith is made manifest, and through that their life is seen and even felt. And of course, as you mentioned, as you go through this journey over time, you can feel that connection with fellow believers, that faith, that humility of spirit, that willingness to grow in a realization of the truth. And one of the greatest things is also being so open and happy of Christ's life rather than your works. You realize that in your flesh, you cannot attain righteousness. In your flesh, you cannot be called or even attain righteousness, but it is through the obedience of Christ, his ministry, his death, as God preordained everything beforehand, that we have access to the Father and even greater spiritual blessings rather than gifts. And Paul even speaks to this. He says that tongues, prophecies, all of these things will vanish away. But the greatest thing, which is even a series that you're doing currently, is love. And that is what God is. The essence of who he is love. Yeah. And that love, as we grow and mature in the faith, is seen and felt in our lives.
Exactly. A little addition there. So while Paul's earlier ministry also contains visible gifts, you can see that in his earlier letters, speaking in tongues, gifts of miracles, gifts of healing, etc., etc. They are all visible gifts, so you could see that. However, those visible gifts were temporary, and they were already destined to be annulled in his later ministry, and that's already happened a long time ago. So that's why in 1 Corinthians 12, when he talks about those gifts of the Spirit, he ends with a very interesting sentence. He says, I'm going to show you a way that goes higher. I'm now paraphrasing. So, and then he goes into 1 Corinthians 13 about love, the well-known love chapter, and he announces already that tongues will cease, gifts, all these gifts will, prophecies, etc., will also be annulled, etc. And then he says there are 3 gifts that will stay, and those are faith, expectation, and love. And love is the greatest one, of course. So these, as you can see, are invisible gifts. So the invisible gifts, and that's the very safe conclusion, that the invisible gifts are higher than the visible gifts, because God is spirit, and God is therefore invisible. So take that with you, and in this era in which we live, The invisible gifts are still the what is the word? The standard, the default, not visible gifts. They will be again default after the snatching away, when God will resume his program with Israel. Then all those visible gifts and miracles, etc., will be prevalent again, but not in this era. Okay, other questions? Yeah, Tori.
Yeah.
Yes, Tori had her hand raised.
Yes, just coming off the point, the three gifts, love, faith, and expectation. I had a conversation with a stranger recently. She grew up Buddhist.
Okay.
And she asked me, well, she couldn't understand Christianity's obsession with, what did I say, Joel? Christianity's obsession with wanting to reach people and go out and preach. And yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to start a podcast, but for some reason, I won't say strange reason, for some reason, I just can't put myself out there. I mean, I don't think I'm as gifted as you and Joel or eloquent with words.
It's not about that. Not about that. It's about just sharing what you have.
That's true. That's true. And I know our focus shouldn't be about evangelizing and going out and forming crusades and campaigns.
Nope.
No, it's far from that.
It's heralding.
This evangelism is unpopular.
Yeah, exactly. But this is about heralding, and we can herald whenever we feel like it, whenever we feel inspired to herald.
Right. And that's so true. Whenever we're inspired, because to be honest with you, the moment, and I'm speaking from experience, the moment I make it an obligation, I think I lose it.
Yep, exactly.
I just lose it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. I'm not obligated to anything, and this is I have this feeling, this conviction for a long time already. So I'm just doing my stuff and doing what I like, but I see how God's Spirit is really guiding me, and I've seen through the years how I've grown, and that's of course God's Spirit totally deciding what direction it goes. So thanks for sharing that. But you wanted to ask something specifically or not specific?
No, well, I was going to ask, but you and Joel covered it.
Okay.
Because before I got the answers, this was last year. I wanted to know if we should just not share with people or make it our point of duty. But then, I got it. I eventually got it.
Yeah, in Dutch we have a saying, but it's difficult to explain that in English. But we have just a play on words. So Dutch, there is a word that means like you have to, you must, But there is another Dutch word that is translated meeting, but it looks like the opposite of must. So like unmust. But that means meeting. You meet someone. So in Dutch we always say we are shifting from must to unmust. So like meeting, from must to meeting. And that's just a play on words, because nothing is obliged, nothing is obligated. All is allowed, but not all is expedient. Because if you're going to eat 10 Big Macs tonight, I'm going to assure you it will not be good for you.
Yes, definitely. And Michael, you had your hand raised, so you can go ahead.
No questions?
All right. So, as I was telling you about one of your series that I was watching, right?
Yep.
I took some notes here.
Okay, great.
And right. In the video, you made mention of the year of Jubilee, right? Which was like 40 years, right?
The year of Jubilee?
Yeah.
You mean a Jubilee cycle?
A Jubilee cycle, yeah.
Okay, a Jubilee cycle is 50 years always.
50 years.
50,
right? Okay.
the number of grace also.
Yeah. When I was looking at it, I was like trying to add up those years from Adam to Christ.
Okay.
Right? And then from Christ to his death and resurrection.
Okay.
But the number that I came up with, let me just ensure that I have it. The number that I actually came up with was 6,900 and I think 95 years. Like from Adam to our present time now.
Okay.
But I was trying to find out, based on your information that you gave, I don't remember when you did that video. I'm not sure if that series, I'm not sure if it was 2014 or whenever, but
no, the series was 2022. It was last year in April, more or less. April, May. Yeah.
April, May. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So
but I remember. So please continue.
I need like clarification, like what do you use as your foundation, as your basis? Because I know you use the year of Jubilee. I get that part, right? But I want like more scripture, like some clarification on how you arrive at the time,
okay,
or at the amount of years and where we are at right now. That's one question.
Okay,
you can do them one at a time.
Okay, well, this one has this one I can explain how I came to this counting. However, I cannot say I have scriptural proof, but I can explain. And probably you will understand my explanation. So the thing is, as you can see, the difference between my calculation and yours seems to be exactly around 1,000 years. The difference is this. Probably you have taken as a point of departure the Septuagint Hebrew, the Hebrew translated in Greek. That's the Septuagint, which is a very good translation, very reliable. And the apostles and the saints in the Greek scriptures, so in Jesus' time and in the Acts period, they also use the Septuagint. However, very important this one, there is just one small aspect of the Septuagint that is not reliable. This is only one small aspect, so you can contain it. And what is the aspect? Before I mention it, the Septuagint was compiled, was made by a group of 70, that's the Septuagint, the 70 rabbis, Jewish rabbis that were living at that time in Alexandria, Egypt. Alexandria was the city of wisdom and knowledge, and they had the largest library in the world by far. And it was, I think, approximately 200 BC. At that time, the Septuagint was compiled. So, what happened is that the authorities, the Alexandrian authorities of that time, they said, okay, you can do it. You have our funding. You have our support. However, you must do one thing for me. And that one thing is that you have to enlarge the ages. So the time of all the old, the second eon patriarchs. So from Adam on to Noah, that's exactly 10 generations. You have to enlarge their ages, so that the length of the Egypt kingdoms, the Egypt empire, that it will be prolonged, so that Egypt gets more honor in history. So it's just a political motive. It was just a political motive, and of course an egoistic and egocentric motive of those authorities in Alexandria at that time that said, okay, you have our support, but it is one condition: you have to prolong the period especially in the second eon, and also the first part of the third eon, and those are the patriarchs from Sem to, I think, 3, 4, 5 generations after Sem. But that difference was 50. So if you look at the second eon, they have enlarged the age of giving birth, of begotten. They have enlarged it by exactly 100 years. So with Adam, you can see that in the what is the word? There's another Jewish group. I cannot find the word now. It's a very well-known group, but anyway, that was later. That translation, by the way, is by far less reliable than the Septuagint, except for the H's. So you can combine those two translations by taking the H's. Oh yeah, it's the Masoretic text. I couldn't come up with the word. The Hebrew Masoretic text. That was, I think, 800 AD. But you could take the H's there from their translation and combine all the rest of the Hebrew scriptures from the Septuagint, and you have a reliable translation. So again, the Septuagint says, the Masoretic text says Adam was 130 years old when he begot Seth, and the Septuagint says Adam was 230 years old when he begot Seth. You see the point? And then okay, so just the Septuagint just put 100 years extra in the begotten, so that everything gets prolonged. That's the whole thing.
Because the number changed for Adam. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, and I started my chronology series by going through the points of departure and findings, the assumptions and findings, and this was definitely also one of the assumptions that I went through by explaining that I didn't use the patriarch H's from the Septuagint, but only from the Masoretic text. Only the H's. The rest I used from the Septuagint.
Okay. So I would have, because when I was doing the research, I was saying, why I'm not coming up with the same number that you got, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm glad that you shared that, right? I thank you for that. I'm going to get that translation. I'm going to do some research, right?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Another question. If anyone else wants to go, they can, but if not, I'll just shoot, right? So
please
another
shoot.
Question. So as it relates to the snatching away, right? Paul talks about the snatching away will not happen until the man of lawlessness is revealed, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
And so what I was looking at, and I want to pull up my notes because that's where I wrote the questions. What I was looking at, hold on. I'm in the wrong one. Is it that, no, let me just backtrack. Earlier, you made mention of the fact that the 1 week in Daniel, that Daniel talked about, that 1 week will actually be the final days or the last days time period. You did say that earlier.
Yes. So the end times of this eon will include the last week of Daniel. Let me just mention this also. There are other Bible students I know of, and I know them personally also, that believe that the 70 weeks, all the 70 weeks are in the past. I don't believe that. Definitely not. So just to let you know, there are people out there.
I've learned that as
Okay,
well. I've
okay,
learned that.
great.
I don't believe that, right?
Okay.
The reason why I asked you to make sure about that 1 week, which we know is not really a literal week, but I asked you because I'm thinking about, right, if it is that we're living in the end time, and based on your the term you use, I don't want to misquote it, but you use a term just now that you don't have scripture to really prove it, right? But based on these facts, you come to this conclusion, right? I'm thinking, like, is it that the man of lawlessness is going to appear at the end of the 6,000 years as it's approaching to the 7,000 years, or it is within the 7,000 years? That's another question that I have for you.
Shall I go and let me try to explain it as clear as possible. First of all, I have just invented a term to denote the end times. I call it the plus 70 plus period. So the first plus is things that will happen until the 70th week, the last week of Daniel starts. Well, week is of course a week of years, of course. So it's a period of 7 years, that week. And not only that, is it a period of 7 years, but it's also it's organized in the same way as a week of days to the Jews. That means that this week of years, the last year of that week, the 7th year, is a Sabbath year. Very important to just remember that. A Sabbath year. Okay.
I learned that.
Great.
As well. Yeah.
Okay, so the first plus is things that will happen, whatever they are, and then the 70th week starts, will take 7 years, and then it ends, and then after the end will be some things happening also before this eon really ends. The 6,000 years ends, and then the 7,000 year or the 7 millennium starts. So, so having said that, the snatching away, pursuant to 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3, the snatching away happens, and I believe immediately after the snatching away happens, well, more or less immediately, the first seal opens, the first seal of Revelation that opens. That means that the man of lawlessness appears onto the world scene. Do you have that?
Yeah, and by that time, the body of Christ will be snatched away, right? Or before that, the man appear, the man of lawlessness.
So the man of lawlessness appears after the snatching away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry, basically. I didn't. Okay, yeah. And I'm just sharing my viewpoint now. When Paul in 2 Thessalonians 2 talks about the start of the day of the Lord, I don't know if you know that background. The Thessalonians had received a false letter, a fake letter. Someone forged Paul's signature, and I suspect who it is, but that's another story. They forged Paul's signature, and they told the Thessalonians that the day of the Lord already started. So they were in panic, like, whoa, wait a minute. If the day of the Lord already starts, then we have been left behind.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So Paul immediately sent his second letter to them to explain to them, no, it was not from me, that letter. First, the apostasia must come before the man of lawlessness appears on the scene. He says, first must the apostasia come or happen, and the man of lawlessness comes on the world scene. That's the order that Paul uses. But the question then is, what is apostasia? Because in almost all current and modern translations, it's translated as apostasy. And the word apostasy in English has one meaning that has been, I would say, pushed upon it. And that meaning is like falling away from faith, from standing. So the thing is, that's good. It's very small for me, but I'm going to try. So in verse 3, where Paul said, no one should be deluding you by any method, for should not the apostasy be coming first, and the man of lawlessness be unveiled, the son of destruction, etc. So the apostasy is a wrong translation. Oh, this is better, yes. It's a wrong translation in my view, because if you analyze that Greek word apostasia, then it means departure. It's a neutral word, and this word departure can mean, depending on the context, it can mean departure from faith, yes, or it can mean something else. And in this case, it is the something else.
Yeah.
And this is departure of physical departure from the earth. So
that's the conclusion I came to when I went to study it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is departure from earth. So this is the snatching away Paul is talking about here, right here. So the correct translation for apostasia should be at any time and all times departure. And from the context, you could see what the departure has reference to, if I have said it correctly, English-wise. So this is why I believe that the snatching away comes first, and then immediately after that, the man of lawlessness appears on the world stage.
Okay.
Okay, this is clear, right?
Yeah, man. It's very
good.
Clear.
Fantastic.
I asked that question because I just want to line it up with the 7,000 years, right? Because in the church we were taught with the same scripture that Christ would come at the end of the 7,000 years, right? But remember, we weren't. Well, we used to hear about the snatching away, and we used to trouble people about it and laugh at them. But like being a believer, God reveals some things to you now, and you're like, oh, all along this wasn't clear, but now it's clear.
Okay.
Right? And I'm the type of person who like to go deep into scripture and see things for myself, right?
Fantastic.
And so I couldn't but to say the least, I totally understand. But I will leave it there as I continue to study, and if I have any other question, I'll just jump in.
Great. Okay.
Thanks,
Fantastic. My pleasure. Just to expound a little bit. So in the calculation I went through, so let me share that right away. In the calculation I went through, what is to me great is that from two angles we arrive at a year, or a calculated year rather, of Jesus' return. So what is the calculated year? That's 2030. So this year is calculated from Adam, the creation of Adam, until 2030 AD, which is almost, not exactly, but almost 6,000 years. It is 5996 years to be exact.
And that's the conclusion that I would have arrived at, right?
Yes.
And then I don't know if Tori remember I said it to her, but I was saying, damn, I mean, if this is right, we literally have like 1,000 years, and that means there are certain things that Paul talk about that need to start happening, right? So you can say your calculation is on point, right?
Yes.
But I'm still studying, and I'll ask more questions.
Okay. So the 6,000 years, and you can see that when Peter in, I think, 2 Peter is talking about a day as 1,000 years and vice versa. It's very interesting because God's word gives a lot of hints. And one of the hints, I'm just talking about the 6,000 year angle only for now. One of the hints is in Genesis 6 verse, I think 3, where God is talking about that his spirit will not content with humanity for too long. So this is what he said to Noah exactly 120 years before the flood. He said to Noah, I will give humanity 120 years. However, if you look at how prophecy is built up in scripture, it has multi-layers very often, more than one layer of meaning. So those 120 years were literal back then, literal until the flood. However, it has a deeper layer, and that layer talks about 120 Jubilee years. And if you think about 120 Jubilee,
could you repeat that?
So let me look it up quickly. Genesis 6:3. However, the translation is a bit not very handy. Then Yahweh said, my spirit shall not abide in the human, but it is, if you really analyze that word, it is more content. So it's more like contention. So shall not abide in the human for the eon, in that he too is flesh. So his days will continue 120 years. That's Genesis 6:3. So you have that, right? So okay. So the 120 years on the surface, it's 120 years until the flood came. That's true. However, there is a deeper layer. And that layer is talking about 120 Jubilee years. And you can find that in more places. Not only this place, but also talking about 40 years of testing. But it's also 40 Jubilee years, and that's 2,000 years. So you can see that in more places than one. This one is talking also under the surface of 120 Jubilee years. And if you calculate that, that's 120 times 50 Jubilee cycles is 6,000. And that is again 6 days. And that is the day of man. Capital D, the day of man. That is 6, right? 6,000. A day as 1,000 years. So that
in other words, what God said to Noah, it had like a dual application.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, and that happens often with prophecy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get you, man.
All right. So that's one angle. That's the 6,000 angle. The other angle is the easy one. That's the 2,000 angle. So the 2 days. There are so many hints about the 2 days. So we know that Hosea, for instance, talk about after 2 days he will resurrect us. He will raise us. And that is the 2 days. 2 times 1,000 is 2,000 years. So that is the year from the year 30 AD, because I believe that Jesus died and rose again in 30 AD. And if you just count exactly 2,000 years, you arrive in 2030. However, the 30 AD, he died and rose again in the spring. So, but he will return in the autumn, because the 4 spring feasts, the Jewish feast, are already fulfilled. The Passover, the feast of first fruits, or I'm done, and the feast of unleavened bread, and the feast of Yom, what was Shavuot or Pentecost, Shavuot. Those are fulfilled. Those are the spring feasts. The 3 fall feasts or autumn feasts are not yet fulfilled. So Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur or the Day of Atonement, and Sukkot are not the Day of Feast of Tabernacles, are not fulfilled yet. So I believe that the return of Christ will be in a little over 2,000 years after 30 AD. So also 2030, but in the fall. So, my point is this. The 2 days are easy, right? 2,000 years exactly. And there are multiple hints. But the 6,000 years, that I'm stuck with a little bit. Because I believe that when Jesus returns, then there will be some time that he will deal with his people. I think it will be, I don't want to go too deep now, but he will deal with his people, forgive their sins. They will be born again as a nation now. God will write his law on their hearts, etc. He will be entering in judgment with them in the valley of Jehoshaphat. So it will be a very memorable time. And after that, they will march onto Israel, just like they marched with Joshua, but they were not allowed to take the King's Highway. This time, they will take the King's Highway because the true King has come. So this is where I'm stuck a little bit, because if it happens 2030, this all, and a little bit more maybe after 20 or 30, then I'm stuck with 3 years approximately, 3 maybe to 4 years. I'm not sure how it needs to be. So there I'm a bit stuck, because I believe that the 6,000 year, according to this calculation, the 6,000 year ends in 2034. 2034. So just for your information. So I hope it was not too complex, but
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
You talking, just bringing back some studies to my remembrance, and it's coming together.
Great, fantastic. All right. Are there other questions?
Yes. When those who will be snatched away, will we know? Will be assigned? Will we be told or something like that? Or with us?
Can you repeat? Will we know?
Yeah.
When it will happen, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. It will happen very unexpectedly. However, maybe one moment before it happens, then I think, I'm not sure, I'm trying to be as faithful as possible to scripture, but there might be a moment of a flash that we see, a flash of light that we see, and that moment we are changed and snatched away. Why do I think that? Because of the Greek word, what is the word? There is in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51, 52, behold, I tell you a secret, or lo, I tell you a secret. There it says we will not all be put to repose. I'm not just talking out of the top of my head, but we will all be changed. And then it says in an instant, or the Greek word is atomos, so an atomic time frame. An atomic time frame. This is the smallest possible time frame. I don't know if you know that. Let's see. Behold, I show you a mystery. Oh, this is another translation, right? This is Esort. Okay, so what translation is it? King James? Because
this
I
one
see
is CLV. I was actually pulling up the Greek word while you were talking, but this one is CLV. You can read this.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So it says, behold, I tell you a secret. And then it says, in an instant. The instant, that's the Greek word atomos. And that is a very small time frame, the smallest possible. I cannot even remember how small it is, but it's called a Planck time. Do you know what Planck time is? No, I don't think so. It's a Planck. Well, Planck was a German physicist, and he calculated the smallest possible time frame, and that is 1 second divided by a number consisting of 5 and 43 positions after the 5. So that's crazy. It's crazy. You cannot fathom that. You cannot even fathom that. I'm not gonna go there. But it's small, the smallest possible time frame. But the other part is more interesting, because it says in the twinkle of an eye, and that one is a wrong translation to me. That I learned from my friend and fellow believer Martin Sender. Twinkle of an eye, it looks like it's saying the same thing as an instant. So it's talking about seeing, you know? But it's not like that. It's about, if the right translation should be in the casting of an eye. Casting. So you will cast an eye to a certain direction. You will maybe pay attention. You are studying scripture, and all of a sudden your attention gets caught by like a flashing light, and you cast your eyes. And the moment you see that light, you are changed and snatched away. That's how I see it now. I can be wrong, but this is how I see it now. But the dead in Christ will hear the sound of the trumpet. So this is the difference. The dead will hear, and we will see. The living ones will see. Is it clear? But
yes.
Other than that, no sign whatsoever. No sign. Well, let me just mention one thing. This is just my opinion, and I have no scripture proof whatsoever. I follow background developments that are not in the normal media. I follow those developments, and I believe personally that there will soon be a so-called, I call it a turnaround. And that turnaround is an event whereby I believe that let me mention the word military will take over. So they will take over, like worldwide. There will be like a martial law, and while they are doing that, a lot of things will happen. A lot of things will be revealed through one channel on the media, only one channel. Technology will be rolled out, but also hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of people will be arrested, and a lot of things will happen. A lot of things will happen. In that time, I think, and this is only my conjecture, in that time, around that time, will be the snatching away. That's how I see it. No proof. I can be totally wrong. But this is just my viewpoint currently.
Okay. Yes. And probably on the back of that, Peter, we can probably transition more into that discussion, speaking more to that development. No worries, you're in an audience where not only you, and of course we have spoken about that as well, but everyone here in this current setting also are very vigilant in seeing what is happening, keeping up with developments, and I'm sure, of course, a lot of the things that we have discussed personally, we can probably flesh out here some more and really give some insight as to those other end time developments.
You mean those other developments behind the scene? That's what you mean?
Yes, we can probably transition into that and speak more to that. I'm sure the audience here would be benefited from that.
All right. Okay. Are there other questions or few points maybe?
No,
Um,
you can go ahead. Oh,
the
Michael.
question Sister Wallace asked, I think she would have asked me that question before, right? And I remember I was doing some research and I came across some information, right? And then I started thinking, like, what if we were supposed to know, like, a day or two that we're going to be snatched away tomorrow at 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
What would you do? And I think about it long and hard, Bridget. Like, I would be just bombarded by so many different thoughts and action and what should I do? Do I see my mother? Do I see my wife? Where do I go? Who do I spend my last minute with? I think
Yes.
I'll be stressed. So there there's a saying, and you can correct me if I use this saying incorrectly. Sometimes they are better. Some things are better unsaid,
Oh
or it's
yes.
better not to know certain things.
Exactly. Yes.
I've learned that, right?
Yes.
And so when she asked the question, I had a flashback, and I'm like, I remember this question, right? And I too was curious, and that's the conclusion that I came to, right? I'm like, nope, I'll be too stressed. Like there'll be too much to do knowing us as human. And Sister Wallace, knowing you you're so busy, buddy. but it's just funny, right? So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, you look at Israel. If Israel knew that the kingdom would be withdrawn, they'd probably just lose their mind completely. I
Yeah.
mean, no one knew, as Paul says, this evangel is untraceable. No one knew that God had a secret administration where he
Exactly.
would be calling a body, a group of believers apart from Israel, outside of Israel's message. If
Yes.
Peter got the slightest whiff that, you know, the kingdom would have been withdrawn, if they knew that
Oh
Pentecost
wow.
would still be delayed and there would be probably a few thousand years before
Yeah.
the millennium would actually come, they'd be distraught at that. And it just shows that
Oh yes.
a big part of our experience is having faith in God
Yes.
and trusting that his operation will carry everything to its perfect consummation.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
in one of Martin's older recordings, he was speaking about the blessing of ignorance, and he compares ignorance to being a bubble flowing in the eons of time.
Yeah.
And God gives us that blessing of ignorance in the flesh where we don't know not even the next second that
Exactly.
will happen ahead of us. And that bubble of ignorance humbles us
Yes.
to know that he's the one completely in operation. We're just living in the real time play out of his divine plan.
Yes.
And the snatching away, whenever it comes, Paul says that the glory that we'll experience, we cannot even fathom it. Nothing in our present reality qualifies the glory that will be in. And probably just for weakness in the flesh, if we knew that it would be tomorrow, probably some persons, I know I would try to rush to get married, or there'd just be so many things that would be there. But God gives us that bubble of ignorance as a blessing.
Yes. Exactly.
If we could really, with our human minds, even begin to see what is happening in the invisible world, would be really sad at it. And Solomon himself said it. He says, with an increase in knowledge, also an increase in sorrow comes
Yes.
along with that. And many
Exactly.
really don't understand that. When you truly understand the reality of the world that you're living in, how
Yes.
evil this eon is,
Yes.
it can really be a stress on your
Oh
mind
yes.
if it was not for the thought that God is the one operating this. Even though this
Exactly.
seems so
Yes.
horrible now, it will get as worse as it can ever be
Yes.
before it ultimately gets better.
Exactly. I totally agree. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
True. True. By the way, a little. Oh yeah. Please go, Tori. Your mic is muted. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yes.
Yeah.
Before you go into the second part, the nicer part, I don't
Oh.
know.
Okay.
I have one more question. What are your thoughts on all the architecture? I'd always see friends who travel to different places around the world. I have a family friend. He went to Not Barcelona and some other places. And I always looked at pictures of these buildings. You know, they say technology has increased and, you know, we're far more advanced. But in comparison to how they call these people primitive, I mean, it really blows my mind. Why can't we build buildings like these
Oops.
today?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I think you already know the answer. We have been lied to hugely. We have been lied to for a long time, even as close as the beginning of the 19th century. There were things and technology that we cannot even dream about, how they were building those fantastic buildings, and also those buildings that were designed in such a way that they could also what is the word? Harvest. Harness, yes, energy, 0 point energy, free energy for everyone in that neighborhood, and that's why all those buildings were built in that way. So they were harnessing energy, electromagnetic energy, and there are a group of people, as you know, those evil ones who want us to pay for the energy, and that's why they destroyed a whole lot of these buildings, or they have removed those parts of the buildings that harness that energy. So just for us to have primitive energy and pay for it. So, and this is only one example. If I tell you about other stuff, I mean, that's crazy, really. They have devised a huge scam structure, a judicial structure, a legal structure, in which we are totally scammed of things we are entitled to as a human being, or as mankind, let me put, or man, a living man. We are entitled to some things according to the laws, the Noahide laws even. So the beginning of this century already, the beginning of this eon already. And these things have been held from us, and especially the last 500 years, 400 years. There is a group, I will not mention their names because they are still quite powerful. There is a group, and these guys have concocted a lot of schemes to lie about history, about geographics, about judicial things. So they have created a matrix of laws that are not existent, but they have made it existent, and they have by sponsoring education, all the functional directions, they have pushed their thinking and their philosophies and their matrix onto us. So we have to study their stuff and not the real stuff, so that they keep us ignorant, they keep us dependent on them. That's the whole scheme. It's a huge scheme, and it's for hundreds of years, especially the last 120 years. Wow, they have really outdone themselves. And now we live in a time where all these practices are exposed more and more. Increasingly, they are exposed, and this is the special character of this time we live in. So these evil, physical or visible evil practices are exposed increasingly by another group, and this will even continue more and more, so that people get awakened more and more. And you are already awake, I can see. So you can see that, like maybe 1 year ago, you didn't even know about these things. I know these things only for maybe 4 or 5 years. That's it. Before 5 years ago, I didn't also know about these things. So in an increasing level, I've been learning about what really happened and how bad it became. And this is truly, we live truly in a time that on the one hand, the world, the mankind has been dumbed down hugely, very deliberately with television, entertainment, shows. Keep them busy. Don't let them think for themselves. Keep them busy by all means. There are movies and just Hollywood. So we have been kept busy. We have been dumbed down hugely with a lot of stupid game programs, etc. and on the other hand, now you see that another group is now exposing them, and that will go further until a certain climax is reached. It's called the precipice. Well, when humanity is at the precipice, then I think the turnaround will happen, because enough people will now be at the stage of being awakened. So then the turnaround will happen. And it will happen, I don't think it will be longer than 2 years. I think much earlier, but let me say between now and 2 years, just to be sure.
The so-called age of enlightenment that this other group that you speak about, they're working so hard for that age of enlightenment where the truth will be out, the dark colors of many of these persons will be made forward. The only problem with that is that they concentrate on humans' effort, on mankind's effort, not being aware that it is God really operating all of this. So they just see it as, okay, man will learn, man will get back to that unity. But right after that period will be the darkest period.
Exactly.
This year.
This period of false peace will rest on the foundation of humanity. They will give themselves the honor. They will say, we have accomplished this with each other, with one another. Oh, we are so good. So this is the number. This talks about the number 6. 6 is the number of human or mankind. That's why 6,000 also speaks of the day of mankind, and that is 6,000 years. 6 days. All right. Other questions? Really not? And not about the end times? About the Revelation maybe? Nothing? Maybe someone else about the Revelation? Things that you don't see or you don't understand maybe. Doesn't mean that I understand, but I can give my shot.
I know in Revelation, what chapter is it? Anyways, I'm just gonna ask a question.
Yeah.
It speaks about the lake of fire, and I asked a question, but I don't think I got it. Who are the false prophets that will be cast into the lake of fire?
The false prophets. There is one false prophet, singular, which will be the side man of the beast. So you have 2 beasts in Revelation. The beast out of the sea, that's Revelation 13. And later in the same chapter you read about the beast out of the earth. In scripture, the sea always pertains to the nations. So the nations accept Israel. And the land speaks of Israel. So the beast out of the sea is not out of Israel. I believe, but this is just my current viewpoint, I believe he will be Islamic. And the beast out of the land will be an Israeli or Israelite person. Don't know who, I have no idea, but he will be from Israel, and he is called the false prophet, and he will be the one who will enforce the mark of the beast. So he will glory. So by the things he does and enforces, he will give glory to the first beast out of the nations. So there are some reasons why I believe that Islam will be the predominant party of the beast system of the end times. It will be Islamic, because it will concentrate in the Middle East. So it will have a worldwide impact, I believe, but it will concentrate in the Middle East. So, as you know, if you look at Israel, it's completely surrounded by Islamic countries. Totally. So it's all the countries that will be part of that system, definitely. So
because based on my research, I realized that it's a fast-growing religion.
Yes, yeah, the fastest growing religion.
Fastest,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Moment.
Already maybe almost 2 billion people. Christianity has 2.5 billion, a little bit more. So yes, it's the fastest growing religion. What is very well, let me first mention this. The beast in Revelation, if you look at how it is described, it is an amalgamation of 4 beasts. And those are the 4 beasts in Daniel 7. There you see Daniel sees a vision when he's a very old man already. He sees a vision that the wind is stirring up the seas. And then he sees 4 terrible beasts coming out of the sea. 4 beasts, and they come up at the same time. And he describes them from east to west. And those, because they come out of the seas, we know that they are the 4 world religions, the Gentile world religions that came up from that time on. The first one is Buddhism, so from east to west, right? So the first beast that is described is Buddhism. The second one is Hinduism, and you can read Daniel 7 for that. It's quite clear. Daniel 7. And yes. And the third one is Islam, and the fourth one is Christianity. That's the most terrible one, Christianity. That's the beast that is the nondescript beast with, it's a terrible beast with iron teeth and it with 10 horns, and it tramples everything in its way. Exactly, Christianity tramples everything in its way. Anyway, so the beast in Revelation, because I don't want to go too deep, but the beast in Revelation will be an amalgamation of the 4 beasts of Daniel. However, if you look at the description of that beast in Revelation, you will see that its main part, its framework, if you want, is the leopard. So the first one is described as a lion that's set upon its feet as a human. That is Buddhism. And there you see the mouth as the mouth of a lion in Revelation. Its feet were as the bears. That is Hinduism. That's the second beast in Daniel. And then you see also, where is it? In verse 1, you see a beast out of the sea having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its horns 10 diadems. The horns speak of the 4th beast, Christianity. So those are, as far as I can see, the Christian nations who are also the most weaponized nations, nuclear powers. And horns always speak of, what is the word? Weaponry. So a horn is a weapon of an animal. So horns speak of weaponry, and so 10 nations, I think those are Christian nations. But the main frame of that beast is a leopardess, and that is Islam. So it will be Islamic predominantly. So I think that the leader, also called the beast, will be an Islamic leader. And this is scriptural. And what is quite interesting in Revelation is just for you to search out. What is interesting is that if you look at the color of the four horsemen or the four horses in Revelation 6, the first until the fourth seal. The first horse is white. Remember? The second horse is red. Fiery red, exactly. The third horse is black. And the fourth one is green. It says greenish or pale, but it's not good. It's green. It's green. That's the color. But anyway, if you think of these four colors, white, red, black, and green, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
There's a special flag that has those colors in them.
This is very interesting, I think. What comes to mind? Maybe, Joel, if you maybe can, what is the word? Look up some flags of...
Yes, I'll add that right now.
Flags of Islamic countries.
Yes, I'm seeing the white, red, black, and green in about 10 countries. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10.
Look at that.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Well, I see a little yellow there, but predominantly those four colors. A little blue there also. I don't know what country it is, but if it is a Islamic country, predominantly these four colors. These four colors. Isn't that interesting? So I believe personally that it will be an Islamic system. It will be a Sharia law. That is terrible. That is really interesting. Sharia law. And one of the interesting things we know of Sharia law is what? Think of ISIS. Yeah. What are they known of?
Repeat that. Sorry, I missed that.
So, what are Islamic? What is Islamic Sharia law known for? Well, predominantly. What is it known for?
Beheading.
Beheading.
Yeah,
beheading.
Beheading. Yeah.
Exactly. And haven't we learned years ago already that a lot of saints in the end times will be beheaded?
Beheaded, yeah.
Yep. If you look at Revelation 20 verse 3, I think, you see something there, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's very interesting. It will be an Islamic system. Let's see if I can find it.
Is it speaking about the souls that were beheaded?
Yeah, is it Revelation 7 maybe? Revelation 7?
Were the souls under the altar, I believe.
Yeah, no, Revelation 7. Yes. The great multitude.
Yeah.
No, see, you can see here that the messenger says that these are coming out of the great affliction, and they rinse their robes and whiten them. But I think Revelation 20, what I mentioned first, I think there you can see that. I think Revelation 20.
Let me see.
If you look, let me see. No, in the beginning. Let me see here.
Souls that were executed.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think in another, I think in the King James, because this is...
Yeah, it says beheaded.
Yeah, in the King James it says beheaded, yes.
Yeah.
But that's, of course, maybe just inlay of King James. We don't know. But we have heard that quite often in the past, that they will be beheaded, and I heard sounds, but I mean, I don't know if I should take it seriously. But the what is the word? The guillotine will come. It will be very prevalent again in the end times. The guillotine, because it's a very efficient method for beheading, of course.
Yeah, I learned this in my research for sure.
Yep. So this is a little bit of my my viewpoint on this topic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, if the question is not fully answered, please let me know. I'm not sure if I answered everything.
No, man, no, you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Good. Okay. Anyone? Joel?
Yes, I'm not sure, Peter, if you would want to speak to, without probably going in much detail, the role of Christianity in the formation of Islam. I know for many, they see them as two very distinct systems, but of course, understanding the role of the fourth kingdom, which is running its course now, it was out of that Christian sovereignty that Islam was born, and Islam has been an arm, or the arm of the forward arm of the system behind the scenes in carrying out a lot of these.
In the Middle East, yes.
Yes.
I believe that too. I believe that Islam was secretly founded behind the scenes by the Vatican. Muhammad and his wife at that time, Khadija. I think Khadija was a nun, a Catholic nun, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not gonna go there. But anyway, Islam has been a branch, so to speak, but behind the scenes. But it is a separate religion, of course, because they don't believe in Trinity, as an example. They have one God, Allah, and his prophet, Muhammad. However, I don't know what you mean by fourth kingdom. What do you exactly mean by that?
I was just saying that it was born during the influence of the fourth kingdom currently happening, yeah.
But if you say fourth kingdom, do you mean the iron legs of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar? The fourth kingdom?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yeah. That iron kingdom is the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire has many faces. Well, more than one face. It started politically, indeed. It started politically in the West. It then extended towards the East, the Constantine Empire, so to speak, the Byzantine empires, also Roman, set up by Emperor Constantine. So that had Istanbul as its capital. But then it became more and more a religious empire. The Vatican, with a huge iron rule. Think of the Inquisition. I mean, that was ruthless and merciless. So they had a rule for a very, very, very long time. And still today we are officially or formally still in the Roman Empire. We are still there. So we are at the end of the Iron Empire of that statue. And very soon at a turnaround, we will migrate or shift, if you want, in the empire of iron and clay. So the mixed feat of iron and clay. That will be the end part, the end times. And clay, why clay? I think it will be a strong Jewish influence. They are the land, remember? So I think the Jewish influence will especially be financial. I believe that the rich Jews will migrate toward Babylon. So Babylon will be rebuilt in a record time Babylon will be huge, a huge metropolis, and it will be built with technology in no time because of quantum technology. And then I think the Jews, I have a feeling, I cannot substantiate it, but I have a feeling that there will be something happening with the USA. I don't know what, but it will not be nice. And then that's a euphemism. So I think at the turnaround, the USA will play an important role. I think the leading role. Just my view, right? I can be wrong. But the USA will play the leading role, but it will be for a short time. Because they would have retained that leading role were it not that something terrible will happen, I think, with the USA. I think it's a natural disaster that will happen there. That will cripple the whole country and the economy in such a way that they will not be able to truly recover. So I think the rich Jews in the US will migrate to Babylon. There will be the seed of the beast, especially after the abomination of desolation. I don't know if I'm going too fast now. So I believe that that Babylon will be the end of the end time seed. There will be the headquarters of the beast system. And Babylon will also be the last one to be destroyed. And this is very interesting because this eon, this third eon, started with Babylon, building the Tower of Babel. So it started with Babylon under the leadership of Nimrod. And it will end with Babylon also. So this is very interesting. And also, if you look at God's plan, how structured it is, first of all, it started with Babel under the leadership of Nimrod, when all people spoke one language, and they were still they were what is the word? They refused to heed God's instructions to multiply on the earth and to be divided, so to spread on the earth. They didn't heed that, so they stayed in one place and they wanted to make a name for themselves. Remember, again, mankind, the number 6. They wanted to make a name for themselves. God says that is too early. That doesn't comply with my plan. So he flipped the switch. He flipped their languages, and now they had to look for another place on the earth with the people that spoke their language. So they had to spread. And then the earthquake started in the days of Peleg, Genesis 10. The earthquake started, and that broke the continent in different continents and islands. That's what happened. So that they stayed there and never came back together.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But now, at the end of the third eon, you will see through technology that everything is converging again. So every language will come together because of the language module of the quantum system. Education will be unified. So the humanity will be unified through technology, quantum technology. And everything will come back to Babylon. And that's where it will end, this eon. Look at the structure of God's plan. It's totally symmetrical. In the beginning, everything diverged. At the end, everything converges. Wow. Tori.
You know, it's funny. I always heard my dad spoke about, because the church that we grew up in, it's always preached that we're now in the feet of iron and clay, but he has always had the thought, and not even the thought, the inclination that we are still in the Roman Empire. And I just had to call him a while ago. So he's standing in the room listening.
Okay.
So yes, I knew this.
Yeah. We are. I mean, I found out things just, in between the cracks, so to speak. I mean, things like I found out that all the land on the earth, through a lot of constructions, it belonged to the royal house of England, the Queen of England. But then through a reroute, it belonged to the Vatican. The Vatican is the real owner of all the land on the earth. Well, formally, not in reality now anymore, but still formally as far as humanity knows, So, I mean, everything was rerouting to the Vatican, but it's very secretly done. Very secretly. So, we are living in the Roman Empire formally still. I mean, they have been dethroned already behind the scenes. They have been dethroned. I will not mention things, but I mean heavy things. They have been dethroned. And I will not mention some details because those are really sensitive. But behind the scenes, it's not like that anymore. But it's just a matter of time that the turnaround will happen. And then we will see and know everything that has been happening, everything that they have done to humanity, etc., etc. Well, humanity will know. I don't know if we, of the body of Christ, will still be on earth. I hope not. But even from the celestials, we will know. Tori, you were burning with a question. No,
no, my dad he was getting all excited because
okay,
while he was in the church, he had these same views that you're talking about, and of course persons would have shut him down.
Nice.
By the way, he was an elder, so
nice, okay. Yep.
So he was just talking.
Yep. So
and you briefly made mention of America. I know, Joel, you will back me up on this. It's always America is always mentioned, but through studies I never really saw their significance. But no, looking at it and what you're seeing, it's all coming together.
Well, the significance, as far as I can tell, lies in the horns of the beast. The horns of the beast are the part of the fourth beast in Daniel 7, and that is Christianity. It's Christianity. And that's the USA, of course. All those Western nations, the West European nations, they are Christian nations, but also some Eastern European nations like Russia, Poland, etc. They are Christian nations. So all these nations are the heaviest armed. Oh, that's the word I was looking for. I said weaponry, but armors. They are armed countries. So that is what horns talk about. It's about armor.
Yes, and just to add to that, the US will play a very significant role, as you mentioned, in the transition.
Yes.
It's interesting. A lot of movies I watched back in the day, which, as you know, psychological programming, in a lot of these movies, two countries are often portrayed as massively destroyed in the future, and that is America and the UK.
Yeah.
They are portrayed to not have that great power that they had, at least in the time that we know now, with a shift of power, wealth to the Middle East. I was once a strong sports fan. I'm no longer a strong sports fan, but occasionally I will watch sports. And one thing I have seen is Europe was the seat for a lot of sports, Europe and the US. Currently, Saudi Arabia has been buying out a lot of the major entertainment and most popular footballers, as you already know, they have immense wealth. Most of the entertainment seat, first in sports, and I believe it will eventually happen in movies and so forth, it is now shifting over to that Saudi Arabia realm. You and I already know that they're building a massive metropolitan there, the city of Neon, which I believe probably will be that eventual Babylon, spiritual Babylon and literal Babylon of the world. But currently, slowly, there's that shift happening. And, to your point, eventually, and this was, I first learned this from a believer. She would be more, she embraced the kingdom message. So she does not believe in Paul's evangel, but she does believe in the salvation of all. It was through her books, she really hones in on America almost being destroyed from the inside out. It's like a cancer spreading that will eventually cripple the nation. It will still play a pivotal part, but it will not be the center of power and influence as it is now.
Okay.
And I believe the quote unquote orange man, that popular term,
oh, yes.
will play an important part in that transition.
Yes, I think so too. Well, I have to say that as far as I can see, I think my viewpoint is a little bit different, because more and more people are their eyes are being opened, and they are getting awakened, and they are I'm talking about USA citizens, and they see more and more now what has been happening all along. So I think they are, so as far as the crippling from the inside is concerned, I don't see that. I see that that nationalism will play an important role under leadership of the Orange Man, so to speak. Nationalism, so like first USA first, that will play a very important role.
Similar to Hitler's power.
Exactly, similar to that, exactly. But what will destroy or largely destroy the USA is a natural disaster. That's what I think, because humans will unite. They will unite more and more. That's what I see already happening. They are discovering what is the truth. So I think the lies of the media, etc., they will all be exposed, and people will see what has been happening more and more, so that they will all unite, I think, behind that man, so to speak. But again, something will happen, because I don't want to mention some proofs I have, but I know for a fact that what is now happening in the USA is, to me, very clear a sign that they will play, I think, the most important role of the turnaround. However, where it will shift from, let's say, the iron to the iron and clay, I believe personally that it will be the real physical Babylon in Iraq. That's what I believe. Why? Because if I look at Zechariah, I think 5, if Zechariah had some night visions, and in one of the night visions there was a wicked woman in an ephah, and that was like visible. It was a see-through ephah, and the vision of the woman in the basket. It's an ephah. It's like a measure of contents, and then the messenger explained, this is an ephah which is faring forth, and this is their depravity in the entire earth. And behold, the disc of lead is lifted up, and behold, one woman is sitting in the midst of the ephah. So, and a messenger is explaining, this woman is wickedness, and she's flinging her down into the midst of the ephah. And later on, you see that there are 2 women holding the ephah with wings of storks, and a stork is an unclean bird in scripture. The wind is in their wings, and they are lifting up the ephah between the earth and the heavens. And then Zechariah wants to know where they are going, and the messenger says to him in 5 verse 11, to build for her a house in the land of Shinar. The land of Shinar is Mesopotamia, is where Babylon is, the real physical Babylon. So this is to me a very important passage that tells me that the real Babylon will be rebuilt, and there will be the headquarters of the beast system. That's how I see it currently. So the Neom can be like a spiritual one, but I think Jerusalem will be also a spiritual Babylon.
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Yeah. It will also be called spiritually Sodom and Egypt.
Yes,
That says, Revelation 11.
I understand the Sodom part spiritually, massive sexual depravity and so forth. The Egyptian part of it, however, what are your views on that? It likening to it being spiritual.
Two things.
Spiritual Egypt.
Yeah, well, one main thing, and that is idolatry, because the Egyptians had multiple gods, and if you look at the plagues in the time of Moses, at the time of the Exodus, those plagues that God sent to Egypt, they were mocking one of their gods. Every plague was mocking one of their gods. So I think Jerusalem will be steeped in idolatry. Already they are steeped in idolatry. Already, oh my goodness. The last time I was there was in 2011, January. My goodness, and that was after almost 15 years. So I was there in 96, and there I already saw a lot of arrogance with those Jewish rabbis, etc. in 96. And then 15 years later, in January 2011, man, it was way worse. Way worse. I mean, you could almost see a Pharisee at every corner of the street having their nose in the air, so to speak. And that was 2011. That was 12 years ago. I can tell you, in the end times, oh my goodness, it will be bad in Jerusalem, spiritually. It will be huge, bad, very bad. So I think that's the reason why Scripture calls Jerusalem like that.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I didn't get that part. I understood Sodom. I know sexual depravity will be a very prevalent thing.
Yeah. So a lot of hypocrisy will be there. So sexual depravity combined with idolatry. Whoa, that's not a nice mix.
And I know in when I was in church, most persons didn't believe that the 144,000 were literal virgins.
Okay.
They thought it was something to do with spiritual purity, but I believe just in light of this great moral decline that will be seen in this region, the 144 will be literal virgin as also a sign of their purity and separation from the regular population.
Totally agree. Yes, of course. They will be literal virgins, young men, 12,000 of each tribe, but a little bit differently chosen. And they will be young men who were not with women. So yes, they are clean, so to speak, and they will be chosen, and they will also have a very important role in the kingdom, because they will have the sign of God on their forehead, so that they will not be touched by the terrible trumpet and bowl judgments. But also in the millennial kingdom, they will have a role to rule over the nations, especially the goat nations, the coastlands. They will rule over them with a rod of iron, because they will, especially in the beginning phase of the kingdom, there will be a lot of rebellion. Did you know that? There will be rebellion. And that rebellion will be really dealt with immediately. So they will be killed, just like Ananias and Sapphira in the period just before the kingdom would start, so to speak, in the Acts period. They died, they just fell dead because of their lie. So that will happen in the kingdom. It's a sign of the kingdom. But also in the end times that will happen, because the signs of the kingdom will already be shown in the end times, of course. Just like in Jesus' ministry in the beginning phase, and also in the beginning phase of the Acts period. So, the signs like miracle signs, they will happen, but also terrible signs like people falling dead, or if you want to double cross your neighbor, you will be killed. So you have to see it like this. It's quite logical if you see it. What God is doing now, according to his plan, is he is hoarding up his indignation. So he is doing nothing now. You can flip him the bird. Nothing will happen to you. But the moment his indignation starts, and it will start with deception. It will start with the first seal, which is that white horse, which is peace but false. That's deception, huge deception. That's how God's indignation will start. Only the first phase. And then it will become more and more terrible. However, in that period, God will pour out step by step and layer by layer his indignation on the earth. But then with the bold judgments which are the most severe judgments you can imagine, then the bowls are empty. Then his indignation is gone. His indignation is always for a short period. So, and he doesn't do it himself, but messengers. Messengers are doing it for him. He always assigns messengers to do those things, the dirty job, you know.
Strange work.
The strange work, yeah, exactly. Strange. It's strange to his heart. That's the point. But anyway, then the bowl of indignation is empty, or the bowl of wrath, if you want. So the millennial kingdom starts with an empty bowl, but now the rules are changed. So the moment you lie, or double cross your neighbor, or kill one, I don't know, whatever, you do something very unrighteous, then you will be killed. So God's indignation will be struck. It will struck you immediately then, because there is a Dutch term, but I don't know the English term for that. But there will be like a ruling of immediate judgment. Immediate judgment. So that's what happens. That's what will happen. But I also believe that heaven will be open. So when heaven will roll open, it will, what is the word? Recoil like a scroll. Then it will stay open. So in the millennial kingdom, if you look up, you will not see a blue sky. You will see heaven open. Well, it will not be, I don't think it will be real heaven as such, but you will see things happening. So if you still, while heaven is open, you know God is watching, and you still double cross your neighbor, I mean, come on, you are really stupid. But it will happen, and those dead bodies will then thrown into the fire of Gehenna. And that's a garbage dump at the southwest of Jerusalem, where all the pilgrims from the nations are passing by when they give honor on Mount Zion in the temple. That's the point. And they will see that horrible scene in Gehenna with the dead bodies, smoldering dead bodies. And that will be, of course, like a sign of discouragement for them not to engage in those practices. That's the point. So it will be very practical. Very practical. And later on, they will learn their lesson, all the rebels of the coast, especially the coast nations, the goat nations. They will learn their lesson. And then they will feign as if they comply. They will not agree, but they will feign as if they comply. There are some scriptures, passages that say so.
And it's the reason when Satan is released from his prison, within that, I think 2.5 months or 2.5 months, 3 months.
Very well, yes. I think 2.5 months, 75 days, yes.
yes, he will so fast just get the sand of the sea in multitude.
So then the
question, the kingdom.
Exactly. So then the question becomes: but wait a minute. He was 1,000 years. He was in the submerged chaos on the lock and key. So then, how does he know exactly where to go to mislead, to deceive? Because he's going to the goat nations immediately, and there they will find like, oh wow, now we have our chance to rebel. The goat nations. So how does he know? I think a little birdie is going to whisper that in his ear. Everything according to God's plan. That's the whole point. Everything according to God's plan. I love these things. And if you look at the number of the people who will march onto Jerusalem to besiege them, it says their number is like the sand of the sea. That means if the kingdom starts with very little number of people, well, not a lot of people will survive all the terrible things in Revelation. But I think the population will explode in the kingdom because of two things predominantly. First of all, there will be... Sorry?
I was saying atmosphere, the natural conditions of the earth being renewed, rejuvenated massively.
Exactly. The earth will be totally refurbished, so to speak. So the curse will be lifted off the earth. So the growth power will be enormous. It will be huge. So like a grape like this will look like a volleyball format, things like that. So there will be prosperity in terms of food, etc. But also, women will have children without pangs at all. So they will just have children easy. They will produce children easy. So can you imagine maybe one average family will take at least 50 children or more? But people will have long lives, like almost like 800, 900 years. If someone dies in the millennium at 100 years of age, they will be regarded as young. So, So that will happen in the millennium kingdom on earth. But that glory will be nothing compared to the celestial glory of the body of Christ. Can you imagine what awaits us? My goodness, it's unbelievable. Really, you cannot fathom it. We cannot fathom it at all.
And what makes it so interesting, there's so much revealed about what Israel will experience. So much is revealed about what their glory will be like, but almost nothing about ours. And it just speaks to it being invisible, it being so much higher than our thoughts can perceive.
This is God's wisdom. This is God's wisdom. So, I mean, the huge part of the scriptures is Israel. It's just Israel evangel. A tiny part, so Paul's 13 letters are, it builds up, but it's with the celestial calling, the body of Christ. Can you imagine? So, it's like unbelievable. And it's only the five letters, the prison letters, that are really totally aimed to the celestial sphere. So I would say Ephesians, Colossians, Philippians, and then 2 Timothy and Philemon. So those five, I would say, are Paul's completion letters, if you want to mention that. But he completed the word of God at the end of his life. And I think he died just before 70 AD. That's what I think. He died by that time, because his death was also the end of Israel. They had the chance.
That was when Jerusalem was destroyed, right? 70 AD.
Yes, exactly, 70 AD.
Yeah.
And that's why I also believe that they had a test period of 40 years, exactly 40 years. And that's why I also believe that Christ died in 30 AD. I practically 100% sure, for myself at least. So, and 40 always speaks of testing, always. Jesus was tempted in the wilderness for 40 days, the 40 years of Israel in the wilderness, etc., etc. Always. And also the testing period of 40 Jubilee years, 2000 years, from Christ's death unto his return, his resurrection, until his, I have to say, from his ascension, because that is the way to count it, from his ascension to heaven in 40 days after 40 days after his resurrection to his return is a little over 2000 years. So there you have it.
They're very beautiful, and these, in spite of the continual developments, the economy going down, food eventually will not be as prevalent as it is anymore. All of these sad realities, the expectation that God has given to us.
Yes.
Nothing can be compared to that. It's the most comforting thing once you even just try to think about what life will be like.
Exactly.
After we leave this realm, it's immense.
Exactly.
It's
True.
immense.
I agree.
And it's why Paul, on the back of what he speaks of in Thessalonians about the snatching away, he said, therefore, comfort one another with these words.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's so easy to forget how great our calling is.
My goodness, yes.
It's so easy at times, it's something on the job.
Yes.
Probably you and a loved one didn't get along.
Yeah.
Something happens and just destroys you emotionally, and then you remember that, and it's almost as if like the burden is lifted. It's
true.
Like, wow.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
and towards, yes.
I would say before we end, let me mention one smaller thing, but I didn't think of it. We know that God's indignation will start with deceptions. We know that.
Yes.
Jesus was the first thing that Jesus said when his disciples asked, what is the sign of your coming, etc., etc., your parousia, your presence on the earth. He starts with deception. Look out that people don't deceive. Okay. So we know that. But in 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul mentions a specific deception that God will send. God will send. So we don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. However, what I know is this, and that's what I want to mention just to end. I also believe, apart from the technology that will be rolled out, and the prosperity, and people will get money, etc., etc. Apart from that, something huge will happen. I believe, and that is, I think it will be huge, and that is this. For a very long time, these self-proclaimed elites, they have built buildings on strategic places on the earth. The strategic places are called those, what is the word? I cannot find the English word again. The ley lines. So like a crossing of ley lines. So there, on very strategic crossings of ley lines, they have built buildings, because those ley lines, they serve, that's how God has designed our system. They serve to have good energies coming into our atmosphere, so that it's the good energies are relaxing, they are fear diminishing, and they fill the atmosphere. But what they did is they built those buildings up on top of them to suppress all the good energies. And we are born and raised in this atmosphere of fear, and we don't even know it, because we are so used to the fear all around us. So we are used, and I think for maybe longer than a century, maybe 200 years, these things are built in the strategic places. And not only that, they do rituals. I will not mention the adjective, but they do rituals there, and to suppress the good energies even more, frequencies, vibrations, etc. They suppress the good ones, and then the evil ones, they fill the atmosphere. So at the turnaround, one of the first things that will happen is that they will demolish, and very fast, they will demolish, I think 34, but one of them is already demolished. But anyway, 30 something of those strategic buildings, they will totally demolish. So what will be the consequence? Out of the earth will come, I think, with force, will come very good frequencies and energies and vibrations. So they will fill the atmosphere. So can you imagine what kind of energy that will flow in our atmosphere? I think very fast will fill up the earth. So I think that will be, I think that's just my I don't have proof, but I think that will be part of that huge deception mentioned in 2 Thessalonians 2. That's what I think. We will have, because it will feel so peaceful. It will feel peaceful. It will feel for people who are used to the fear that all fear is gone. It will be feeling like, what is happening here? So they will really think this is a peaceful era. A new era has started here. That will happen, I think, and it will play a huge role in that deception. That's what I suspect. So let me end here.
Yes. Thank you so much, Peter, for giving us your time.
Thank you for your hostship. I don't know how to say that in English. And for all you who attended, I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate, of course, the fellowship. It's fantastic.
Yes. There were some that came in and came out throughout the presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, but I know that this recording will be very edifying. I know to the wider community, many persons will be surprised to say,
I sure hope so.
There are believers in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
I'm really happy for this fellowship.
Yes, me too. Well, thank you again for your idea and for hosting this. I truly appreciate it, and we'll be having contact afterwards.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
We'll end the recording now.
Yes, I will too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.